My name is Rashid. For 15 years I was an Imam in the heart of a conservative Yemeni city. I embodied the principles of faith, discipline, authority, and unwavering devotion. My voice echoed through the mosque, leading prayers and imparting the sacred laws. But beneath the surface a tempest brewed, one that I dared not acknowledge. Doubts whispered in the shadows of my mind, sowing seeds of uncertainty. Is this the righteousness we professed? Or are we all mere actors in a grand deception, blind to the unseen forces that steer our destinies? This internal struggle collided with a harsh reality on a day that began like any other. A journey to a nearby village turned catastrophic when our bus crashed. There, teetering on the brink of life and death, my soul ventured into an abyss both terrifying and wondrous. I was enveloped in a radiant light, imbued with warmth and understanding, more intense than anything I'd ever encountered. Amidst this luminescent embrace stood Jesus, his presence exuding a peace that defied description, unraveling truths that shook the foundations of my lifelong beliefs. In that transcendent moment, revelations unfurled before me like a tapestry of hidden realities. Jesus disclosed a secret war, one that claims souls through ignorance and deceit. He spoke of an elite whose power and manipulation drive humanity toward division and despair, entrapping us within a singular narrative. Brothers turned against brothers, orchestrated by faceless entities profiting from our discord. It was a chilling insight into the political and social upheavals I could no longer overlook. As his revelations deepened, a truth emerged, a dark alliance intertwined with technology meant to surveil and control us. Jesus urged me to awaken to a reality that transcends man-made boundaries. This awakening wasn't merely a call to reject the old, but to recognize the divine spark within each soul. It was a call for spiritual resilience against the orchestrated chaos surrounding us. This experience lingered as I returned to the waking world, a silent vow forming within, an urgent need to break the shackles of ignorance and share these revelations. The world isn't just suffering from political unrest. It's gripped by spiritual amnesia threatening our humanity. Step by tentative step, I embarked on this fraught journey, driven by hope for an awakening capable of altering our collective destiny. Before we dive deeper, tell me, where are you watching from, and what time is it there? I want to see how far this truth journey reaches. If you're ready to discover the truths hidden in plain sight, subscribe to Truth from Beyond. What I'm about to share transcends a mere story. It's a revelation, and the next chapter is just around the corner. I had dedicated 15 years of my life as an imam in a conservative Yemeni city, leading prayers and teaching religious law with a crisp clarity that conveyed authority and devotion. On the surface, I was an embodiment of steadfastness and certainty. But deep within, a spiritual war raged, one that I carefully hid behind sermons and dutiful rituals. There was a growing emptiness, an aching void that the daily recitals and pious acts could no longer fill. Doubts crept in like shadows, whispering questions I dared not voice aloud. Was our path truly righteous, or were we all players in a grand deception, blind to hidden agendas that controlled us from within? Despite my venerated status, I was bound by chains of rigorous expectations that stifled any flicker of personal awakening. My internal conflict collided brutally with reality one fateful day. A simple journey to a neighboring village turned into a nightmare when our bus met with a catastrophic accident. Perched on that delicate edge between life and death, my soul slipped into an abyss that was both terrifying and mesmerizing. It was then that I found myself enveloped in an overwhelming brilliance, a light so filled with love and understanding that I could hardly bear its intensity. In the midst of this luminescent embrace stood Jesus, his presence exuding an indescribable peace. It was not the voice of condemnation I feared, but of profound compassion, revealing truths that shattered the pillars of my past beliefs. In that ethereal moment, layers of hidden truths unfolded before me, revelations about the spiritual war that claimed souls in ignorance. Jesus spoke of an elite, wielding power and manipulation over humanity, steering societies toward division and despair. This hidden agenda, he revealed, was perpetuated through deceit, binding minds to a singular reality, limiting awareness of a realm beyond fear and submission. In his words, I glimpsed the intricate web of politics and the machinations that kept us divided, pitting brothers against brothers in wars fueled by faceless entities who thrived on our conflict. It was a revelation that sent chills through my very core. As Jesus continued to reveal the layers of deception, he warned of the dark alliances between technology and the powerful, an unholy union meant to control and surveil. The comforts that came with modern advancement were overshadowed by the sinister potential for suppression and manipulation by unseen hands. Awaken, he urged, to the truth that transcends the boundaries men have established. This awakening was not merely a call to reject the old, but to see the sacredness in each soul, to recognize the divine spark that could illuminate even the darkest of paths. It was a call to arms, not of violence but of spiritual resilience, to stand firm in the face of orchestrated chaos. I found myself drawn forward, yearning for more, as Jesus spoke of the times yet to come, a world at a crossroads. To remain silent was no longer an option. The spiritual awakening was upon us, urging hearts to beat in time with the truth. An urgent need to choose paths of light or darkness, discernment over deception. It felt as though the very fabric of my existence was being rewoven with threads of divine purpose. And as the vision began to wane, the urgency intensified, leaving me on that cusp of consciousness with a burning desire for more revelations. But darkness loomed, drawing a veil over the light. I've spent most of my life working behind the scenes in a bustling factory on the outskirts of Detroit, where machinery hums a constant reminder of both progress and monotony. Each day was a rhythmic dance with the assembly lines, an existence predetermined by the repetitive tasks that seemed to stretch on endlessly. I was an engineer, respected and reliable, a key cog in the industrial wheel. But beneath the surface of my steady life, a restlessness simmered, a nagging question about whether we were all just parts of a grander machination we couldn't see. It wasn't until that fateful day, when metal collided with flesh and sent me spiraling into the unknown, that everything changed profoundly and irrevocably. The accident was sudden and unapologetic, a blur of screeching tires and shattered glass that flung me into oblivion. Those few seconds of chaos felt like an eternity as my consciousness slipped into shadows, leaving behind the corporeal world I thought I knew. In that abyss, time seemed to suspend, and I found myself in a realm unlike anything I'd imagined, a vast, undulating expanse, paradoxically both infinitely dark and luminously bright. Standing before me was a figure of such serene authority that the core of my being trembled in acknowledgement. It was Jesus, his presence an ineffable comfort that transcended the divides of religious doctrine. In his eyes I saw a reflection of my deepest fears, the chaos of the world, and a peace I'd never dared to envision. He spoke not in words, but in a language of pure understanding that resonated through my soul. In this realm, he exposed the layers of reality I'd never perceived, the hidden agendas woven by unseen elites who thrived on the chaos of our divided existence. Jesus revealed a spiritual war far beyond our earthly skirmishes, a deception so intricately crafted by those in power that even the most astute of us were blind to its enormity. He showed me the strings pulled by the puppet masters of society, the manipulation that fueled conflict and sowed division. Yet beneath this grim facade lay a sliver of hope, an awakening that was possible if humanity could lift the veils blinding our collective consciousness. I saw visions of a world teetering on the brink of oblivion, driven by technological advancements that threatened to outpace our spiritual growth. Artificial intelligence and digital connectivity, innovations meant to bridge gaps, were instead becoming tools of division, leaving us more isolated than ever. In a swirl of images, I glimpsed leaders, mere pawns in this grand chess game, enacting policies that deepened the divides instead of healing them. The elite thrived on this turmoil, a hidden agenda to maintain control, leaving us distracted by trivial pursuits and blind to the spiritual truths that might set us free. As these revelations unraveled before my eyes, An urgency gripped me, a calling to bear witness to these truths and share them with a world asleep at the wheel. Yet as the vision began to dissolve, a profound fear took root alongside my newfound purpose. How could I return to my life, mundane and unassuming, armed with such unsettling revelations? Was but one voice drowned out by the cacophony of disbelief and apathy. The fear of being ostracized, labeled a fanatic on the fringes, loomed large, threatening to swallow the courage I felt in that eternal moment. But Jesus' presence, unwavering and compassionate, whispered reassurances that the truth carried its own power, a light that could pierce even the deepest of shadows if only I had the bravery to let it shine. With those final words echoing in my soul, the vision faded, leaving me, stranded between worlds, sobered and awakened to a reality I could never unsee. Back in the physical realm, the hospital lights flickered dimly compared to the brilliance of that encounter. I lay on the cusp of recovery, my mind racing with the gravity of the task ahead. As I stared at the ceiling, a silent vow formed within me, to break the chains of ignorance, to share this revelation with anyone who'd listen. I knew then that the world wasn't just suffering from political and social unrest, but a spiritual amnesia that threatened to erode our very humanity. Step by tentative step, I prepared to navigate the treacherous path laid before me, a journey fraught with skepticism and resistance, but driven by the hope of kindling an awakening that might just alter the course of our collective destiny. As I struggled to grasp the weight of what I'd seen, the distance between who I was and who I might become stretched like an endless chasm before me. My entire life, defined by the teachings of Islam, felt like a book read under dim light, the words now blurred and indecipherable. I tried to anchor myself in the familiar routines of prayer and scripture, yet they seemed hollow and devoid of meaning. There's an unsettling emptiness that shadows you when the foundation of your existence trembles beneath an insistent truth. I spoke about God daily, but this newfound clarity pulled at the threads of my convictions. I could hear the silent whispers of a spiritual war within, drowning out the certainty I once had. In the early days following that encounter, fear was my constant companion. How could I reconcile the teachings I'd upheld with the revelation I was now burdened to bear? Questions haunted me like shadows I couldn't shake, forming a relentless inner dialogue that refused to quiet. I still recall the faces of those who looked up to me, who counted on me to guide them, not as a mere religious leader but as a spiritual anchor. How could I reveal the truths seen in my near-death experience without unraveling everything they believed? The enormity of it paralyzed me in moments when decisions must be made, where taking a single step could irreversibly alter the path of life and soul. Isolation wrapped around me like a heavy cloak. Even in a crowd, the solitude was deafeningly loud. There was an undeniable pull towards seeking more of the truth that Jesus had shown me. Yet I was terrified by the implications of such a pursuit. The revelations about hidden agendas, the manipulations by unseen elites. It all seemed so surreal yet disturbingly plausible. The world's tapestry was unraveled, revealing secrets and deceptions that most chose to ignore or couldn't see. Imagining the world blind to this grand illusion horrified me, spurring an urgency to do something, anything. Yet fear of the unknown chained me down. In my desperation, I confided in a close friend, seeking a shoulder to share this heavy burden. I naively hoped for understanding, for a kindred spirit amidst the confusion. But it wasn't acceptance that met me. Rather, betrayal reared its sinister head. My private confessions were twisted and spread like wildfire through the community. The betrayal was a wound that cut deeper than any blade. I was denounced in the public eye, my reputation shredded to tatters, a pariah among my own people. It was as if all eyes were now upon a specter, an apparition of what once was idealistic. As the dust of rejection settled, what remained was a haunting serenity, a pause before the next move on a complex cosmic chessboard. My family turned their backs, not out of hatred, but out of disillusionment and fear. Yet through the somber echoes of loss, curiosity tugged at the fabric of my spirit. I began to secretly seek the truths that had been revealed to me. Each clandestine step further unraveled the tightly woven narratives about politics, society, and humanity's future. The deception, the orchestrated division, everything connected. With startling clarity and a chilling resonance, I felt like a fugitive in my own skin, weary but driven by an electric current of awakening. The path ahead was shrouded in uncertainty, but the compulsion to pursue it was undeniable, as if a voice now whispered, "Continue, for the truth is unfolding." I've been a truck driver for nearly 2 decades, traversing the highways and byways of this vast country under countless skies. Life behind the wheel is both simple and taxing, a solitary march, punctuated by the rhythmic hum of the engine and the fleeting snippets of life glimpsed through the windshield. I was on the road one late night, the kind when the darkness wraps around you like a blanket, and the world beyond the headlights fades into oblivion. It was supposed to be a routine haul, just another run, destined for the dockyards of the East Coast. But as the miles ticked away, a supernatural exhaustion began to seep into my bones, far beyond what coffee and adrenaline could remedy. It happened so swiftly. One moment I was navigating a stretch of empty highway, the next a flash of lights pierced the night, reflecting violently in my mirrors. A sudden collision of metal and force hurled me into a realm where time no longer held sway. As the crash unfolded, I felt myself slipping away, exiting the confines of my corporeal form into a space unbound by earthly laws. Suspended between conscious realms, I had what can only be described as a near-death experience, an ethereal dance between existence and the unknown. The chaos of the crash was but a distant echo as I entered a place imbued with an unearthly light, a dimension I can liken only to a spiritual battleground, where the forces of good and evil skirmished in the shadows. In the midst of this peculiar luminosity, a figure emerged, radiant and uncompromised by the cosmic war waging around us. It was Jesus. The recognition was instinctual, an intrinsic knowledge that bypassed understanding. His gaze tethered me, a lighthouse amidst the turmoil, guiding through revelations that unraveled before my eyes like a tapestry of hidden truths. He showed me the deceptive veil draped over our world, layered with manipulations from unseen hands guiding the puppet strings of society. Corruption and greed, hidden agendas, all orchestrated by the elite to steer humanity toward a future shrouded in darkness. Each vision was a jolt, a revelation so profound that it left me breathless, a spiritual awakening, igniting in the pit of my soul. I saw how technology, a tool for progress, was being weaponized to surveil and control, tight noose around the throats of everyday people who believed they were in command of their destinies. Wars ignited not by necessity, but by those who profit from conflict, painting a canvas of division and despair across nations. Pandemic fears, puppet leaders, societal rifts. The truth was a mosaic of calculated deception, stark in its reality and terrifying in implication. Through each revelation, Jesus' presence remained a constant, a beacon of hope in the swirling maelstrom, urging humanity to awaken to the spiritual war at hand, to rise against the tide of control. As swiftly as it began, the experience faded, leaving me gasping for breath in the mangled wreckage of my truck, the embers of revelation burning brightly within me. The paramedics swirled around, their voices distant and indistinct, trying to pull me back to the tangible world. Yet, I was forever changed. No longer just a man behind a wheel, I carried a weight, an urgency that defied mere survival. My life had a new axis, spinning in alignment with truths I could neither ignore nor fully comprehend. The line between past and present blurred, and I stood at the precipice of something monumental. In the days that followed, as I healed and returned to the road, the urge to share these truths grew insistent, gnawing at the edges of my consciousness. I was a simple truck driver for most of my days, my life etched along the barren highways of the nation, each mile a monotonous stretch, a quiet, predictable path. I thrived in this rhythm, the solitude of the road matching the humdrum of my own thoughts. My world wasn't big, but it was mine, rooted in the tangible reality of gears and asphalt. One evening, As I was driving through an unyielding storm, an unfortunate twist of fate changed everything. The howling wind overtook my senses. Lightning split the sky with blinding intensity, and in that instant my truck went careening off the slick road into a dark abyss. Time halted, my world spinning and shattering around me. As I lay within the wreckage, my breath thin, I hovered on the brink, between this life and whatever lay beyond. In that suspended moment of near death, the void swallowed my consciousness, and there I encountered an enigmatic presence. I found myself standing, or rather existing, in a space of infinite nothingness. Jesus appeared before me, not as I'd seen in books or heard in religious discourse, but as a vibrant reality. His presence a beacon of impossible light in the shadow. I felt his gaze pierce through, an all-seeing clear vision unraveling layers of my mundane existence. He revealed that our world was deeply entwined with hidden agendas and unseen hands manipulating our destinies, puppeteering beneath the veneer of society. It was a revelation beyond the petty grievances of politics, reaching into a spiritual war where an elite cabal pulled invisible strings, sowing discord and division among us all. Images flashed before me, cities in turmoil, leaders swathed in deception, their voices honeyed with lies that stirred chaos and confusion. I saw their secret councils, cloaked in darkness, plotting the fractures of humanity. Jesus spoke, his voice resonating with an urgency that reverberated through my very soul. It wasn't a warning in the traditional sense, it was a clarion call to awaken, to shed the layers of deception wrapped so tightly around us. He showed me the faces of the innocent caught in these webs, their spirits battered and weary. This was a future constructed on fragile lies, a legacy of deceit threatening the very fabric of humanity. And yet, he imparted hope, a glimmer within the chaos, that with awareness would come the strength to fight back against these forces shadowing our paths. I awoke with a start, back in the crushed remnants of my truck, but a fire now burned within me. This experience seared into my consciousness, altering the essence of who I was. I returned home not as the man who had left, but as a vessel of newfound truths. My life became divided into before and after, the latter steeped in relentless urgency. I delved into scriptures and prophetic writings with an insatiable hunger, searching for insights, drawn to narratives of struggle against unseen yet palpable forces. Every word, every passage, a brick in the foundation of the new paradigm I was constructing. My old life felt like a relic, an echo from a past that had crumbled away. I began sharing quiet conversations with those willing to listen, planting seeds of the spiritual awakening that had been gifted to me. The journey forward was fraught with doubt and shadow, a constant dance with the revelation I'd received. The road before me was uncharted, its horizon shifting with each new day. Yet, there was a clarity in my purpose, even amid the lingering questions. Each step was imbued with the whispered truth of that encounter, the cautious revelation that I was now a part of a larger battle, one against forces far greater than flesh and bone. My story wasn't unique. It was a strand in a tapestry weaving together countless others waking to this new reality. Together, we stood at the brink of uncovering something immense, something capable of unraveling the tapestry of deception. The tale doesn't end here, and though the final act remains to be seen, the ownership of it by all who dare to see is the truth. As I sit here, reflecting on an experience that shattered and rebuilt my understanding of life, I find myself compelled to share my story. I was an Imam for 15 years. My life's work rooted deep in tradition and faith in a conservative Yemeni city, but a single dream, one unlike any other, brought vivid clarity to the simmering doubts I'd buried beneath devotion and duty. In that dream, Jesus appeared, cutting through the fog of uncertainty with luminous wisdom. He revealed a hidden battle, a struggle not of flesh and blood, but of spirit and soul, ripping the veil from the carefully constructed illusions I once held as truth. In that radiant encounter, Jesus unraveled layers of reality, speaking of concealed forces manipulating the fabric of our existence. driving us towards division and despair. It wasn't just an awakening, it was an urgent call to arms, against the spiritual amnesia gripping us, against the dark alliances binding us in ignorance. He spoke of an elite power, thriving on our conflicts, a truth so profound it etched fear and hope in equal measure on my heart. I returned from that threshold between life and death forever changed, carrying revelations that demand to be spoken, shared, and embraced. Now I turn to you. Have you ever felt something stir in your heart? A feeling urging you to see beyond the tangible, the visible? Have you ever questioned what lies beneath the world's facade? I urge you to share your experiences in the comments. These stories are not mere tales. They are whispers of a greater reality weaving us all into its narrative. Your insights are invaluable on this path of collective awakening. To ensure you become part of this unfolding journey, subscribe to Truth from Beyond and activate notifications. It's more than staying updated. It's staying connected to the truths that seek to guide us. Every step forward is a testament to our readiness to awaken, to align with a reality greater than ourselves. Next, we will traverse into another realm of profound spiritual insight in our upcoming video. Join me as we uncover yet another story of divine encounter and revelation. I'm Rashid, and I thank you for allowing me to share this journey with you. Remember, the truth is not a destination, it is a journey, and it is waiting for all who dare to seek it.